Good evening. Welcome to our first quarterly community safety meeting. And I'm Officer Ben Ransom, the River Forest Police Department. I am the crime prevention officer. And thank you for joining us live on Zoom. And we have lots of important, interesting topics to talk about tonight. But before we do so, let's do a quick Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started with our presentations, a brief word from Chief of Police Jim O'Shea.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. And hopefully you're at home or somewhere warm and not out in the elements. So hopefully the weather will break in a good way for us. This is definitely a rough cold streak for people that work outside or those that are unhomed right now or need assistance. This evening, you're going to hear some great presentations. We have Housing Forward here. We have Kadima Palace. She's the Outreach and Diversion Manager. We also have Terry Miller from Beyond Hunger. Terry's the Director of Development. And you're going to hear from Officer Ransom, who's going to give you some updates on what's going on in the community, including talking about community security surveys. Our Sergeant Mike Freeze will be talking tonight about some crime trends and statistics, followed by Commander Greenwood, who will be talking tonight about traffic patterns and analysis regarding accidents and other factors related to that. As always, at the end of the meeting, I come back on and I'm available to answer any questions that arise. One thing I just want to share before I turn it back over to Officer Ransom is the village board a couple weeks ago approved at the first meeting of the month our expansion of our street camera system. So you will see in the south end of town, phase one of the expansion, where cameras are going up on Washington Boulevard and also on Madison Street. And this will be between Lathrop and Thatcher. And once again, this will be a force multiplier with regard to being able to have some additional eyes on what's going on and also help those other departments, public works, fire department, or administration that kind of have some extra eyes on what's going on with regard to weather conditions or other related issues regarding the services that the village provides. One thing I wanted to mention I saw and I thought it was very interesting was Sheriff Dart put out yesterday an article or provided an article to some of the news outlets regarding some of the carjackings that have been going on. These carjackings are definitely something that is an epidemic in the area here. So what I want to do is just kind of cover a few of these statistics that came out of Sheriff Dart's study that was released out of the Cook County Sheriff's Office. The most incidents involve 47% involving sedans, 41% involving SUVs. That means on the low end, coupes, hatchbacks, minivans, and pickups were not targeted as much by these offenders. Also, by vehicle model, and this is something to take note of, Camrys, Grand Cherokees, Altimas, Accords, Malibus, and Dodge Chargers end up falling into the high theft category that these carjackers seem to be targeting. The method, and once again, we know the methods are violent. We know they happen quick. And so 48% of these occur by ambush on foot, where the offenders run up and quickly approach the drivers of other vehicles. Others include an ambush where they pull up in another motor vehicle, and that occurs 21% of the time. And then the next category moves into ride shares, and we see Uber drivers Lyft and other driver services, even taxi drivers being targeted. Gas stations, food delivery services, and those sometimes stopped at red lights kind of combine into the next group of categories. So I'd ask everyone to be safe while they're out there, and keep their eyes open. Be ready to call 911 if needed, and be ready to keep yourself and your family safe so you don't become a victim. At this time, I'll turn it back over to our community service expert, Ben Ransom.
Thank you, Chief. We're going to jump right into our first presentation from Kadima Palace. She's the Outreach and Diversion Manager for Housing Forward. And Kadima, I understand you've had quite a busy 24 hours, last 24 hours with the inclement weather and the extreme cold. So thank you for being here, taking time out of your busy schedule, and we're happy to hear what you have to tell us.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a ride. So as you mentioned, because we've had an extreme cold snap, so the context is that, and I'm not sure how many people know this, but because of COVID, most of the shelters, all of the shelters in suburban Cook County, from down south all the way up to the Evanston area, have been shut down and have not come back for a myriad of reasons. Hopefully our whole system is working on that, but in the meantime, we've been relying on some stakeholders and partners for like warming centers. But because of this cold snap, we have opened a 24/7 warming shelter that will be running through Saturday. And it is in Oak Park at 611 Randolph at Good Shepherd Church. Again, it's 24/7. People can come whenever they need to. We have capacity for 15 clients. The last count was we only had 4, so there's space. So I did work all day yesterday, and then we unfortunately weren't able to find coverage for overnight. So I'm coming off 24 hours, but that's all right. I'm sure many police officers and other people have been through that or worse. So don't feel bad for me. So right now that's an option we have if there are any folks that you find that are experiencing homelessness and need a place. We can't always provide transportation, just depending on our capacity of like how we can get folks connected. We may be able to get cabs depending, but hopefully we can problem solve around getting them there if necessary. It's right off of like Oak Park Avenue, so it could be accessible via bus lines. That said, for those who don't know what we do at Housing Forward, I'm going to give you a quick overview of mostly of my programs, because they're really probably the most relevant for any crisis that anyone, coming in contact with our clients would need to kind of connect with us first. So I'm the manager of our outreach and diversion team. Most folks that are experiencing homelessness or are imminently homeless, so within 2 weeks will be losing their housing, would come through my team via a call center, and they would get referred to us, and we will start the process of assessing their situation, what needs they have, then providing them with the appropriate referrals or resources, or finding out if maybe there's ways we can help them stabilize within their own resource network. So, do you have friends or family you can stay with? Can we help you with that? Just doing some sort of short-term crisis counseling to try and help them stabilize, ideally without having to enter the homelessness system. Because we all know it's, we're short on resources, and we really want to be able to provide everything we can to those who need it. So we want to try and make sure that we're using those resources for those who have no other options, but also, and most importantly, because it's similar to the justice system, it can be very traumatizing for folks. And the more we can do to prevent them from ending up in that system, the better it will be for them. If it's determined that they kind of don't have any other options, then they connect with my street outreach team. And my street outreach team does exactly that. They go out on the streets, they meet with clients to do anything from providing them with material goods, so socks, hand warmers, gloves, hats, coats, sleeping bags, food, gift cards, to restaurants, bus passes, helping them get IDs, all the way through to getting them in the process to enter into our coordinated entry system, which is our sort of data system that matches people with housing, longer term housing. And we kind of start that process and the paperwork and the referrals for that. So, and that process can take time. So it's always important for me to let everyone know that, especially because we no longer have a robust shelter system, if there is a client on the street and we are called by either the police or stakeholders or anyone, the chances that they will be housed immediately are very low, just because there aren't resources for that. It's not for lack of trying or want, for sure. So just know we will send outreach. We will do everything we can to try and help them get safe and stable, or at least keep them safe while they're on the streets. But because there's not a lot of crisis services, and because the housing process takes up to months, we're working against some big factors. But hopefully once they get connected with outreach, again, we can at least keep them safe while they're on the streets, try and start problem solving, finding resources, and then getting them connected to our housing team, or, our more supportive housing programs. The only other program that, again, I think would be really applicable for folks in crisis is we have a homeless prevention program. That is actually for folks who are maybe facing eviction, so who are still housed, but need assistance financially with rental arrears, or with the eviction process, mortgage arrears, utility bills. And they can also call our call center and be referred for those services to hopefully prevent them from losing their housing entirely and help them stabilize with a little, especially because of COVID. We've been able to do a lot of work with folks that lost income because of COVID. And we could help them catch up on rent because they had lost income. So those are the three services that really, like I said, for folks on the ground are going to be really applicable. My team and myself, we do operate normal business hours. So unfortunately, and in a perfect world, in my dream world, we'll have like a 24/7 crisis response system. But right now it's Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We do have an after hours call line that can give resources, and then they refer them back to us so we can reach out in the morning. But if someone's in crisis at like 2:00 in the morning, the chances are that, unless I'm awake for some crazy reason, we will not be able to respond right away. That said, right now, again, we have our emergency shelter in Oak Park, and there are several warming centers, and some of them are 24/7 or extended hours. So Rush Hospital in Oak Park, their old emergency room that's off of, I think, like Maple and Madison, or Wisconsin and Madison, I can't remember right now, but it was what used to be their emergency room. They are running a 24-hour warming center. Probably the biggest difference between our warming shelter and the warming center is they don't have beds. They do have chairs because it's the old emergency room, but they don't have pads or any place. Oak Park Homelessness Coalition is providing meals, breakfast and dinner through March. And we've provided snacks, and we also have our outreach team touch down there to do intake and to start helping folks while they're at that center. So if there are people that really need to get in out of the cold, especially once our shelter shuts down, that's a great resource for them. West Suburban Hospital in Oak Park also has a warming center. The hours are a little bit more abbreviated, and I can get you the actual sheet with all that information to share or to post. And they don't have as many amenities, if you will. They're I don't know if anyone's being fed fully, like with meals, but it's, again, just a place overnight to drop in and at least get out of the cold. And then there are several townships I know that are also offering those services, even for, overnight. Oak Park Public Library, all 3 branches, I think there are 3, are also allowing clients to go in there during the day, and they don't have to move along. They're not considered loitering, so they can go in there, get warm, and get some services. And we also drop in there. We do typically have outreach workers stationed at different libraries. My outreach worker that covers Berwyn on Friday nights from 5 to 7 has office hours at Ebenezer Church. So folks can come in, and if they need some assistance, and it's sometimes they're in a spot that we don't necessarily find them when we're canvassing the streets. So this way they can access us that way. And then we are anticipating holding office hours in the Forest Park Public Library. That has not been finalized. So once it is, I can disseminate that information as well. And I'm trying to think. We desperately need some volunteers for the shelter, which is why I was there all night. So if anyone's interested, there are several different shifts, and I can also share the contact person and the flyer for that. And I do think, Ben, we had sent you the flyer for the shelter in general that has that information. So all of this information I can get to you in paperwork that can be posted or shared. And I think that covers it, unless there's any specific questions or anything you want me to cover that I didn't.
Okay, let me check with my moderator, see if we had any questions come through. Doesn't look like it, but Kadima, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for,
Thank you.
I know it's been a long day for you, so we appreciate it. And I will make sure that any questions that come into me get filtered back to you and vice versa. So we'll put those resources out, we'll have them available. And again, calling for volunteers in this cold weather, trying to get some help at the shelter and at the.
And Ben, do you want me to email them to you and you'll get them out? The paperwork?
Yeah, absolutely. You can send those directly to me.
Just make sure. Okay,
Yeah, and
thank
any
you so
inquiries
much.
that come to our police department, I can connect you guys with Kadima and with her office.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Terry Miller with Beyond Hunger. Terry is the Director of Development for Beyond Hunger, formerly known as the Oak Park River Forest Food Pantry. Terry, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Excellent, yes. And so we're going to give you control to share your screen.
Okay.
I'll let you take it away.
Okay, great. All righty. I'm just going to share just a few brief pictures, mostly kind of an update about all the things that have changed over the last couple of years due to the pandemic at Beyond Hunger, and some ways in which we can have community members help us get the word out so folks know who we are and what we're doing. I thought I would just briefly share with our vision and mission statements. We do believe hunger is solvable, but we know that we can't do it alone, and it takes a community to do that. And our mission statement there, harnessing the power of communities to end hunger, really does speak to that. I'll just briefly share this image with you, sort of the state of where we're at with food insecurity as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. You know, the health crisis really has affected Americans, and we are seeing folks that have never needed these type of resources before come to food pantries. In the early stages of the pandemic, I know we all saw the information on the news. It was just skyrocketed. In Cook County here, that's the image that you see is food insecurity rates in Cook County, were as high as 1 in 5 households were really experiencing problems finding enough food to feed their families. That has gone down a little bit. And part of that, this roller coaster effect that we're seeing, at least in our food pantries and many food pantries in the area, have to do with some of the federal response that has come out during COVID. And it has been so powerful and so effective for many families, not for all. And I'll touch base here in just a few seconds on that. But we have seen some numbers go down. For example, in Oak Park, those numbers are some of the lower numbers that we've seen in quite a long time. And a lot of these supportive programs are really helping folks be able to get food if they have food stamps, those stimulus checks in the initial stages of the pandemic, and that child tax credit that did just end in December has also been quite effective in helping folks have the opportunity to shop for groceries on their own. However, with those programs ending, specifically that child tax credit, we are starting to see numbers tick up again in our pantry and across all of our programs. I'm just going to touch base on some of our direct hunger relief programs. Those are the programs where we're providing emergency groceries for folks. Our marquee program that most people are familiar with is our food pantry. In the past, our pantry operated as a grocery store. Folks could come in and wait inside the building and then have an opportunity to shop through the grocery store setup and choose the foods they want. Since the pandemic, however, we've been operating as a drive-through. And it remains incredibly popular. When we've surveyed our clients over and over again for the last 2 years, it still remains a very, very popular way to receive groceries. And then that lower photograph you'll see there, boxes are pre-packed in advance, and then they're safely loaded into the trunks of people's cars. And they're receiving about 80 pounds of groceries. It always includes fresh produce, frozen meat, and then non-perishable items, all intended to be able to be used to make a meal. Though for those folks who don't have cars, we do have a pedestrian pantry. So that photo there on the right with the ladies behind the table, the same 80 pounds of food that's in those boxes is also available for folks who walk up to our facility. And we are located at First United Church. So they can come in, they can select the items that they want. They can take as much as they can carry up to that 80 pounds. One of the other things that's been great throughout the pandemic is we have this additional cold storage. You see the photo of the two ladies holding turkeys. With that additional cold storage unit in the parking lot, we were able to offer hams and turkeys to families that came throughout November and December for the holidays. So that was really fantastic. That is temporary, however. But for now, the drive-through pantry will remain, as well as our walk-up food pantry. And we're still serving about 10 to 12,000 households every year with the pandemic. That photo at the bottom there, we do health screenings. We have nurses that come from the Rush Oak Park Hospital, and they help with a brief health check. A new project that has started since September of 2020 is our Dispensa. It is a pop-up pantry in an undisclosed location, serving a particular demographic of folks who are typically undocumented immigrant families. This came about in a really interesting way. We had a friend who was a school social worker who was recognizing there was a need, and she was actually providing bags of groceries to these families all on her own. But we've since partnered with her, and now we're serving about 120 families a month. It's about 80 pounds of groceries, but these are more culturally relevant and provide foods that these families would prefer to eat. And because it's being coordinated through this school social worker, she would text them or will text them every month the time and the location of this pantry. The reason why this is being handled in a completely different way is a lot of times these families are reluctant to seek out services. These are families that are likely not qualifying for those federal relief programs that I had mentioned earlier. And when you come to a food pantry, you often have to show identification and fill out a form. At this pantry, at this Dispensa, we do not ask for ID. We do ask a few simple questions: how many people in your family, how many older adults, how many children. But beyond that, we're not really asking for any identifying information. And this really helps these families feel safe in receiving the food that they need. Food insecurity rates among this community are really quite high. And we're noticing these are larger families, multi-generational, often including an older adult like a grandparent or children. Another one of our larger programs is our home delivery program. In this program, we deliver groceries directly to homebound older adults and disabled adults. These are folks that can't come to our food pantry to pick up the food or shop for the food themselves. This program has been with us for about since 2016, I believe. But since the pandemic, we've had to handle it in a new way. Also, since the pandemic, there are a lot more vulnerable older adults that are not able to get safely to a grocery store. So our program tripled overnight during the summer of that first pandemic. So we moved to a new location. We are now renting space in a New Moms facility in the Austin community off Chicago Avenue. New Moms also has a building in Oak Park, but this building that we're renting space is in the Austin community. So in this new space, we have a lot more space, which gives us an opportunity not only to grow to meet the demand of those additional families needing that kind of food and that kind of service, but we're also providing more of a variety of food. So we now offer frozen meat. We were never able to offer meat before. We didn't have space. We now offer non-dairy products. We can offer almond milk or soy for people who can't tolerate dairy. And then, just like you find in the dual Osco aisles of the grocery store, we also offer toilet paper, incontinence products, and shampoos and those kinds of things as well. This program used to serve about 100 households every month, and now we serve 300 households. This program is actually going to continue to grow. We have a new partner in the Austin community, and we're hoping to add another 10 to 30 households in the coming year. This program, though, is a referral-only program. We mostly work with the township in Oak Park to refer families to us or individuals to us, and then we have a few partners as well in the Austin community. Real quickly, the last two programs that I thought I would share is our nutrition education program and our social services. So one of the things that makes Beyond Hunger unique as far as food pantries is concerned is we offer really robust nutrition education programming that used to all take place in person at our location there at First United Church. It all had to move to a virtual world. So we now offer cooking skills and food demonstration classes to any of our clients that are interested. And because it's virtual, we've been able to include some of those homebound older adults, and they're able to partake of some of that really, really helpful information. And then our social services, we have a full-time person who helps folks get connected to really important programs. So SNAP is the food stamps program, and then Medicare and Medicaid, and navigating those applications can really be challenging. And so it's nice to have someone to walk you through the process. And when the pandemic hit, we were, the state of Illinois allowed us to fill out those applications online in a virtual environment rather than we used to have to do that in person. So that virtual application service still continues, and we can help anyone navigate those forms. This is really just an infographic, just really displays the number of folks that we served in our last fiscal year. We've given away more than 1 million meals worth of groceries. That 1280 there speaks to those families that are being served in that dispensa, that pop-up pantry. 80 pounds of groceries are being handed out to every family that comes. And that's about $180. I just more like $200 worth of groceries now with inflation. But that really helps offset, families that are really struggling to make ends meet and get some food on the table. A lot of times, though, I hear, what can I do to help? And I would really sort of stress the first two here. So advocate. I can't stress enough how important those government support programs have been in helping lowering food insecurity rates for a lot of families in our area. So if there's ever an opportunity to speak with the legislature to let them know how important it is to keep those SNAP benefits at the highest levels, it really is making a difference. The other thing I would mention about advocate is, if you know someone who is struggling to pay bills, maybe some medical bills they've incurred as a result of health scares or whatever, anybody is welcome to come to our pantry regardless of income. The drive-through process makes it really nice and anonymous for families if they're feeling reluctant to come. But we serve 13 different zip codes, Oak Park, River Forest, the west side of Chicago, and all of the suburbs that touch the Oak Park River Forest area are areas that we serve. So if you know of anybody who is seeking out or is struggling, please let them know about Beyond Hunger and have them seek us out. And also, as was mentioned with Housing Forward, we too are always looking for volunteers. I know today was bitterly cold, but we do always need additional volunteers to come and support us. So that's all that I have. I appreciate the opportunity to tell you a little bit about what's been going on at Beyond Hunger. And if there are any questions, I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Terry. Quickly, if we have any other comments or questions, not at this moment. Terry, if you're available to stick around for questions at the end, please do. That'd be great. And just as a reminder to our viewers that we will be opening up for questions at the end, again, for all speakers with us. Advance. Okay, just a reminder that our website is the best way to get connected to the village to see when these community events are popping up, events for the community, these meetings, trustee meetings, everything like that. So if you go to our village website at www.brf.us, you can click that get news up at the top and sign up for the newsletters. PD offers a lot of free services to our community members. View them here. I usually try to break at least one or two down each meeting. But we have the emergency ID program. We have residential security surveys, which I'll be talking about today, the child safety seat inspection program, which we do get a lot of people calling our department for that and setting up inspections for the new car seats. Also in-school programs such as iSearch and Too Good for Drugs. So today I just want to highlight the residential security surveys. With growing concerns in the community about crime trends, we've had people reach out about these surveys, and happy to say we've been able to conduct numerous surveys leading up to the holidays, and got a lot of good feedback from them and a lot of positive response. So I want to pitch them out again and remind everyone that these exist. So you can contact our department to schedule a free residential security survey organized through our crime prevention unit. And just a quick breakdown of what that looks like is an officer coming out with a checklist, looking over the interior, exterior of your home to make suggestions to kind of assess and mitigate security risks. So I won't dig too deep, but a quick breakdown. We're talking about the perimeter, checking on your fences and gates, making sure that they secure properly, making sure that padlocks are available and can be installed if needed. Talking about your natural landscaping, trees and bushes, do they provide concealment for would-be offenders? Do they provide access to the second floor? That kind of stuff. Exterior lighting, proximity sensors to turn on lights, that kind of stuff. Also, lighting to illuminate your house numbers, make sure that officers can respond quickly and effectively in a call for service. Alarm systems, checking on the system if it's operable. Do you have the right sensors and service to meet your house's specific needs? Doors and windows, sometimes they're old and they need to be replaced, or mechanisms need to be renewed, replaced. Do they provide adequate defense against a break-in attempt? Take a look at garages and verify that cars are still being locked, that we're not getting complacent just because the car is secured in a garage, that valuables are being removed, and kind of talk about what are safe habits to be engaging in at your home. And also surveillance systems, talking about if you wish to put in a doorbell camera or other home surveillance cameras, what's the best placement? How can those cameras help our police department in investigating crimes and solving crimes, and kind of bring it all together to work together as a community with the police department to effectively protect your house in this investigations. The security survey takes about 30 minutes. There's a little bit more than that involved than I spoke about, but they're effective, and I said got a lot of positive feedback, and so I encourage you to call our office, our crime prevention office, or email me, bransom@vrf.us, and inquire further. Without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Commander Jim Greenwood, representing the Detectives Unit, to talk about crime and trends and updates. Commander.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us or for viewing this at a later time. Detective Sergeant Michael Freeze was going to present this section, however, he got called out to go do police work. So I'm going to cover this section of the presentation for him. Over the past few months, we've had an uptick in different incidents, some of them violent, and some of these incidents have also been reported across the metropolitan area, such as catalytic converter thefts and ATM burglaries. Over the past couple months, we did have one armed robbery at one of our stores on Madison Street. That offender has been identified and charged. We had a few catalytic converter thefts. In one of the incidents, that we believe the offender was involved in a few different incidents in town. He was identified, his vehicle was towed, and he was arrested and charged. He was also linked to cases in Oak Park and throughout the other areas throughout the area. We did also experience, similar to what's been reported on the news, one commercial burglary, ATM burglary that occurred on the 15th of January, so just a couple weeks ago. Very similar and related to incidents that have been reported on in the media outlets throughout the Chicago area. That case is still being actively investigated. We had one retail theft at one of the businesses on Lake Street, where the offender had entered the business and then had pushed one of the employees while he was trying to get away with the proceeds that he had removed from the store. That subject was also later identified through the use of our street camera system, our license plate reader system, and with cooperation with our neighboring police department in Maywood. That offender was recently charged, just as I believe that was this past Friday. So we're experiencing some of the same incidents that you hear going on throughout the Chicago metropolitan area, not at the same scale, which we are thankful for. Our officers are out here patrolling the streets, even on a beautiful -degree day, and we're always here. If you have any questions relative to incidents that are going on in the area, please, either give us a call, and if you have information, intelligence information about suspicious people or things that you're seeing, please call us, because we'd like you to, if you see something, to say something. The next section I'm going to go over, this was the part I was supposed to talk about, is traffic crash analysis for 2021. And I also have traffic enforcement information to share with you as well. 2021, there were 110 injury accidents reported, 191 191 non-injury accidents, and 43 hit and run accidents. This is a very difficult slide to read. I did break it down on my own just to share some of the information. We use this information at the patrol level so that our officers know the days of week, the times of week, basically using data to drive our response to enforcement areas. So if we know on Wednesdays at 5 o'clock in the afternoon are typically a peak time for car accidents, that's likely and ultimately a good time to be out there enforcing the traffic laws, slowing people down, reminding them that they're in residential areas and that we want people to be safe. So with this type of information, again, very difficult to see on the slide, but this is the kind of information we gather and then help our officers to make smart decisions on. This one's a little cleaner to see. This is crashes by day of week for this past year. The first one that I showed you was comparing 2019 to 2020 to 21. So again, this graphic shows us that Wednesdays are our peak time for non-injury accidents, and basically flattens out if you add all the accidents together compared to Friday. So again, information that we use for our people to get out there and figure out where they need to be and when. We also use this information, which is by time of day. It's not a big surprise. The largest volume and the most hectic time of day for people going isn't necessarily always going to work. It's on the way home during rush hour. So again, that's what's displayed here. And this is different types of accidents. So we have our injury, hit and run accidents divided up by the time frame as well. So we know when and where we're most likely to have serious accidents where people are being transported to the hospital, and what time of day we should, again, be out there looking to help slow people down and keep the community safe. So with all that information, or similar information to that, along with requests from community members, things that the police officers are seeing on the street, we use that to make enforcement activity decisions. Officers, this past year, were very focused on enforcing the laws regarding reckless driving, unlicensed drivers, and impaired drivers. Midnight shift in September of 2021, their enforcement area, I just did a couple of months. I didn't do the full year because I just went for this period that was since our last community meeting. So the midnight shift, their enforcement efforts were primarily used in September by the mapping and data information that we shared. During the time that the midnight shift was working, during the whole month, they only reported one accident occurring during their 8-hour day. There was also a significant increase in the number of citations for moving violations. 62 citations were issued in September just by the shift. Day shift, their enforcement areas were much more diverse. They were asked to do enforcement in the 300 block of Franklin when there was some alley construction going on to make sure that people were slowing down and while the children were out, after school, before school, walking to and from school. Lemoyne and Harlem, which is an area that's people will take a left turn off of Harlem Avenue onto onto Lemoyne at a time of day when it's prohibited by signs. And also, we've had reports that in the area that motorists use Lemoyne as a cut-through rather than driving on North Avenue. Again, the 1100 block of Thatcher was also driven by the data that we collected and requests from community members. And school zones, of course, we want to keep the kids safe going to and from school, so that's always an area that we try to get out there, do enforcement, and assist the crossing guards with covering the area, getting the kids to and from school safely. The afternoon shift, they performed high visibility patrols in the south area of the village during September. During that time, they made 85 vehicle stops, cited 57 people, and arrested 9 for traffic-related incidents. In October 2021, the traffic missions were a little bit more dialed in. Midnight shift focused on enforcement on Harlem Avenue. During the midnight shift's hours of operation, they reported only 2 accidents that occurred during their tours of duty for the whole month. During that month, midnight shift stopped 47 cars, issued 45 citations, and made 3 traffic arrests. Day shift and afternoon shift, again, were spread out across a larger area, doing multiple zones and multiple areas of enforcement. They're listed here on the slide. The day shift made 53 stops, issued 28 citations and 28 warnings, and arrested 3 people for traffic offenses. The afternoon shift made 84 stops, issued 73 citations, 45 warnings, and 15 traffic arrests. It was a very good month for the afternoon shift. November 2021, the midnight shift, again, focused on Harlem Avenue. Again, during this month, due to some of their enforcement activities, there were 0 accidents reported on the roadway during the midnight shift during the month of November, with 73 stops, 64 citation issued, and 6 traffic arrests. Day shift had the same similar traffic enforcement areas as the previous month in October. They reported, the day shift reported 77 stops, 62 citations, 28 warnings, and 5 traffic arrests, with the afternoon shift reporting 58 stops, 52 citations issued, 32 warnings, and 10 traffic arrests. I just dropped my papers that I'm looking at, so give me a second, I'll put those right back up. In December 2021, the midnight shift they shifted their focus from Harlem Avenue to North Avenue. During that enforcement time, they made 23 traffic stops, issued 19 citations, and arrested 2 people for traffic offenses. The day shift and afternoon shift focused their efforts on Madison Street along the whole length of Thatcher due to complaints from community members, and also the same on Chicago Avenue. The results for that were the day shift made 56 stops, issued 39 citations, 23 warnings, and 3 traffic arrests. And the afternoon shift, another great month for them, 85 stops, 55 citations, 46 warnings, and 5 traffic arrests. So the full breakdown for the whole the year of 2021 is listed here, where the Patrol Division reported 3,171 stops, 2,026 moving violations were issued, sometimes it's multiple citations to one person. So I almost said 2,026 people were issued tickets, but it's really, that's the number of violations that were issued. Also, we have compliance citations that came in at 665 issued, and warnings of 1,145. That concludes my portion of the presentation. However, if you ever do have any traffic concerns, safety concerns, again, especially traffic-related issues, feel free to call me, or any of the supervisors that are on duty will be able to address your issue, collect the information, and deploy our assets and our people out there in an effort to make the community safer and keep the road safer from reckless drivers and everything else. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Commander. And just a reminder that we do engage every year in the Traffic Safety Challenge, and we won another award this past year, and I will plan to have Corporal Dan Humphreys to speak at our next meeting about the great work that he's done in the submission. So we will get to that and address it further and a little more deeply at the next meeting. And we are going to open up the floor for questions and concerns. I'm not sure if anything's come in yet, but I will have Chief Jim O'Shea step up here briefly, and we'll go from there.
I just would like to thank all the guest speakers tonight, very informative, and some of the information, of course, very timely. And we'd like everyone to think about volunteerism out there, especially for the organizations that spoke this evening. It's very cold, and hopefully everyone is going to continue to stay in, ride it through the next few days here. And lastly, I just want to recognize Commander Greenwood and Ben Ransom, our crime prevention officer, for their presentations tonight. And just to let everyone know, we're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and there's someone always available to answer your questions, whether it's at your front door, whether it's over the phone, or whether it's here at the police department. If you're not sure who to ask, we always have a supervisor working. Usually a sergeant or a corporal is the supervisor or supervisors of a shift, and they're available to immediately answer those questions. Or if it's of a sensitive nature, feel free to request a supervisor if you feel more comfortable speaking with them. At this time, I don't see any other questions coming in, and so I just would like to once again thank everyone that did participate, and hopefully those that watched the recorded version reach out to us via email or phone if they have any questions after viewing session tonight. We will be having our second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter meetings, and if they're not here at the Village Hall, they'll be at places like the library or the community center as we try to move through the town a little bit and just kind of give some opportunities to really participate or to be closer to everyone's homes. I think, as it said, if you hear something, see something, please say something. Let's be good stewards of the community. Let's look out for our neighbors, and let's continue to try to show a sense of humanity out there. Thank you very much, and good evening.